against teams like Splyce. Now, that win you said a minute ago, Splyce really destroyed Fnatic last week. They didn't give up a single death, and really from start to finish, ran them around in circles. Origen only one position greater than Fnatic on the table, and truthfully, not performing a massive amount better than Fnatic at this time.
But Splyce did reveal their hand, which was a split push Nautilus, which, as we've seen in different matchups afterwards, is just a complete pain in the butt to deal with when he starts ramping up. Fantastic performance though from Wonderwear. The first time that I think he straight up carried the game with some fantastic hooks, some reckless overall. But so as last week as well, Origen was struggling, and who showed up all of a sudden getting only a modicum of help? It was Soaz. He straight up won that game with the split push pressure on Fiora, joining the team fights a little late, but then 1v2, 1v3, getting some kills.
Yeah, that was definitely the case. Let's see if Splyce get their hands on that Nautilus again, because if they do, I want to ask you how you play against it or what tools Origen have available to catch up on bans. Let's see if we get it first, before we get too excited. Fiora Kalista from Splyce, Nidalee and Cogmore from Origen, and Oriana ban targeted towards Power of Evil. That is an unexpected one. And I can see you turning your nose up,
I don't know about the Oriana ban. I guess it's because Splyce doesn't want to put Senkux on a utility champion, or perhaps it's like the one few matchup that does well into Lulu. Because we have to go back to what Splyce's issues were. Senkux was getting kills, but then no farm. And Wonderwear was getting farm, but then no kills. So what they did is they switched it around. They put Wonderwear on an engaged carry and Senkux on a utility champion like Lulu. It got banned out right now though. So perhaps they're looking to put Senkux actually on a carry this week, try to enable him and remove as many passive matchups from Power of Evil as they can. Get rid of the Oriana in mid lane, force the skill matchup, and maybe camp for Senkux and get him to snowball, because once Splyce improves in the macro game, they can start donating farm to Senkux. It's not that hard. You put him on a side lane. But they seem to have struggled in the past. Well,
we've seen the highlight reel of Senkux's LeBlanc about 27 million times at this point. Let's see if he gets his hands on that Gangplank. It would be interesting, you know, Splyce have played 12 games now, and Senkux is adding another potential unique champion to the roster. We're seeing Splyce pick way more unique champions than the majority of other teams. Deficio has actually said, hey, look, get to a good level on one and then branch out. We'll see if this is maybe the magic number. Alistair Lucian, safe lock-ins here for OG.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that whole champion diversity thing, because if you're a team that struggles with the core elements of the gameplay, by all means, perfect them on maybe a handful of champions. Don't try to do everything at once. Learn how to play all champions and the game at once, because that is a recipe for failure. As for the draft right now, power pick in GP has its counters, but if you can make it survive somewhere, I think it almost has to go mid though, because Power of Evil is not a lane pressure player. So you kind of get the Gangplank scaling for free in the mid lane with Senkux, who can then pick up side lane farm maybe with his ulti or just scale into the late game. And again, you can put Wonderwear on a tank in the top lane, which seems to be the preferential choice for a lot of players here. Kikis is a tank player. Odowane has been trending towards tanks. Hell, even Cabochard played a tank today. So Wonderwear, by all means, don't buck the trend. Go for the tanks.
Yeah, it's don't fix what's not broken. And to expand on that Power of Evil lane matchup or lane presence, he's actually traditionally down in CSD at 10. Now, it doesn't tell the full story, because it is an average, of course, but hovering over a power pick. Nautilus, if this is a steal away from Wonderwear, is potentially a good lock-in, but instead, Amazing's going to default to the next sort of tier of jungler. With Elise on Splyce, it's Lee Sin for Amazing.
They could steal the Nautilus, but then they give up double counter pick, or at least one counter pick, because they would last pick their jungler when the enemy jungler has already locked in. So I think they kind of ran out of time and didn't take that into equation, because maybe the Nautilus plus Lee Sin could have been a good pickup here for Origen. Power of Evil going for the aggressive LeBlanc matchup though. LeBlanc has very few, I feel like, losing matchups at this point in the game.
Do Splyce even run the risk of calling the bluff? Are you okay? I mean, GP into LeBlanc, we know GP's laning phase is always going to be tough. Or do we just take Nautilus now and have that front line, Nautilus Braum, get some damage elsewhere?
I love Wonderwear on Nautilus, so it's just up to Senkux. Can he handle the matchup?
Well, we're about to find out. 10 seconds left before they lock in the last two champions. It will be a Caitlyn lock-in for Cobby. That is the second time he's run at the split.
Are we going to see a Quinn here? That could be the pick, because we actually have tank presence on Mithy, on the Alistar already. The flex has been forced into the top lane, just like you said, for that matchup. They weren't willing to take it. They put Wonderwear on a scaling carry, and Soaz He likes that kind of isolated 1v1 duel style.
Historically, both Wonderware and Senkux have played Lissandra, both of them with 1 game apiece.
That's
I mean,
true.
maybe they could swap it again, you know, depending on what the final picking is here for Origen. And if Quinn is locked, obviously that'll be quite comfortable in Soaz's hands. He's got a lot of experience, but he can't afford to fly into towers and fly into his opponent's hands like he did 3 weeks ago.
I think you may actually be right, because dodging the Gangplank matchup in the mid lane away from the LeBlanc to top lane only to run into a Quinn, you're like, you know about that swap that I initiated? Cancel. I'm taking this champion anyways. I don't want to. Nobody wants to have the Gangplank at this point. We'll have to see. 20 seconds is the time when they swap, and then we can finalize our thoughts on the Splyce game plan.
Is it fair to say Splyce have the possibility of getting run over early? Are there some tools here that Origen can play with? The LeBlanc, the Quinn, the Lee Sin, at least in the solo lanes?
I mean, definitely they have the tools, or they can lose the solo lanes. Although I think Lissandra lanes fine into LeBlanc. It feels like that's actually a decent matchup that I've seen before. My memory's a little foggy here, so I may be wrong.
Especially with the item path of early Abyssal Scepter, that can play into Lissandra's favor.
Both go early Abyssal, obviously. But it's just that you can, at least when she distortions in, a well-timed W can snare. And you can farm relatively safely. I wonder, though, if Splyce lane swaps here. They will lose their bottom lane advantage. Caitlyn, obviously, the superior trader into a melee matchup with supports. But if they lane swap, they can at least hide the Gangplank, because Gangplank into Quinn is ugly in the early game. Yeah,
Gangplank into a lot of things is tough, but this is especially difficult. And we'll only see if there's going to be some support from Amazing onto Soaz. It worked out a little bit last week, and I distinctly remember some poor 2v2 targeting on the side of Origen that made their life a bit difficult. Here's your team compositions once more. The flags are lit as well. Origen taking on Splyce. And there's actually a lot at stake here, Crepo, because if Origen win this game, we will have 3 teams locked into playoff positions. Origen can gift their opponents a guaranteed playoff berth.
I mean, there's so many games left that it actually doesn't really matter, but obviously being predicted into playoffs is a thing every team really wants. Something you said prompted me to think a little bit more, though, where you talked about Amazing helping Soaz. Running over Origen's team comp, though, they don't have much CC. They only have a couple of snares and a pulverize. So they have a very, what I call like a conditional composition, where a lot of things need to go right and they need to play the pressure game. But if you look at Splyce, if they can get like a mid to late game team fight with Gangplank, Lissandra, Peel from Braum, suddenly things get absolutely explosive. So Splyce, if they can keep their passive style against Origen, a rather passive team too, we could see a decisive victory in the mid game for that roster.
Well, we'll find out. Tempo might be the name of the game. Looking for a potential lane swap. Nothing to give it away yet, so likely not going to see that one.
This area generally doesn't get defended too much, so Mithy, instead of going for the risk brushes, he just walks in on Krugs. Nisbeth, I mean, come on, dude. You saw that ward. Don't hide here in vision. At least make them think about it.
It's a double fake.
It's
a double fake.
It's the elaborate mind games. Like, is he here? Where's Cubby? There's Cubby.
Hey, there's Cubby. They're going to start off on the Krugs. Nothing too exciting as far as Keystone Masteries are concerned. Nope. Sven and Mithy, they're starting off on the Gromp. Yeah,
Windspeaker Alistair, fundamental into a teamfight composition. Unless you, if they have a lot of assassins, you could argue Bond of Stone to maybe keep somebody alive. But Windspeaker, just so valuable. The amount of gold it gives you in stats worth. And here we see Senkux. Something he likes doing, early pushing. He did it last week with the Lulu as well, just abuse that mid lane matchup. He's trying to poke and push at the same time, but once he misses Q, obviously Power Evil can go in for a counter trade. So that's what this matchup's all about. Pushing, so the other party has to use their spells to actually get their minions.
Oh, Sven takes a Winter's Bite.
I mean, Cobby's not in synergy though. He should walk up here.
Not on the same page. Mithy's going to interrupt Cobby, and Sven takes a lot of damage.
I mean, if this was a Chinese bot lane, we could see an aggressive flash on the W from Mithy, and Sven would have to trade flash and they'd be dead. So this is the difference between what we call a good LCS bot lane and actually abusing the fact that Zen gets caught there.
Yeah.
Cobby and Nisbeth, just not quite on the same page. They're happy with that trade. So in their minds, they won the trade, but they could have absolutely destroyed that lane.
Yeah, the potential for additional gain was significantly larger than what we saw happen.
Gotta work for their gains.
Yeah. So, Splyce.
Especially you.
Gonna get their standard lane set up. Wonderware up top, currently farming relatively well into Soaz. Double TPs on the side of Splyce. I want to see how they make use of those summoner spells. And Mithy gonna line up onto Cobby. Piercing Light connects, as does the Headbutt Pulverize.
That was a 90 caliber net there, I believe. Cancelled instantly. Yup, it's on cooldown right now. So the new Alistar combo, so forgiving. It obviously got patched on 6.3. If you press W and Q slow enough and you don't actually panic Q in place, you will land every combo. And more importantly, it's a lot harder to dash out of it right now. And it makes Alistar just a strong lane pick, because you can actually start cancelling these gap closers.
So Mythi's already demonstrated the ability to do that once. We need to watch it again.
Press 2 buttons.
Press 2 buttons. It's all about timing.
He was really good. Pre-change, before the Alistar combo got slowed down, Mythi was one of the most impressive Alistar combo players that I've seen. He would rarely miss, but after the slowdown, the mechanics just changed inherently, and you couldn't actually land certain combos. It was impossible.
Yeah, we said it so many times on broadcast that I had to actually stop myself doing it. Trashy sneaks up into the tri-bush. Amazing. He's going to be aware of this. There is pings. So as will leap forward, Repel comes up. Amazing misses the Sonic Wave, and Trashy walks away.
Yeah, in this exchange, Repel is so necessary to shift targets, reposition. The fact that Repel gets used early means Amazing and Soaz have the upper hand in the 2v2. Now Splyce's jungler has been revealed. Release pressure in the mid lane, release pressure in the bot lane. Suddenly everybody can play more aggressive, and more importantly, Soaz can look to win this matchup. But Wonderwear has done a fantastic job so far, actually staying even CS. Very impressive. I've
been watching the mini-map, and it seems like Wonderwear's been farming under his tower for a fairly lengthy period of time. And it's going to be helping out. Paraviva gets a very, very good trade onto Senkax. He's going all in. The chains have come out. Senkax is in trouble. Sonic Wave will not connect.
Oh, amazing. With the respect. So that is not a miss. Basically what he says is like, Senkax, I respect you to be good enough to press E there to dodge my Sonic Wave. And he tries to predict Lissandra E. But Senkax, with a cool level-headed plays, checks where the Q is going first before deciding. Obviously we're playing on 8 ping. You have the time to decide that, but
Pro players have the time.
Yeah, I can't do it. I just, I'm lucky, you know, jungler camping my lane. But no, I love those interactions where it's a mind game. Do you go straight for Senkax? Because then he E's. In the end, if Senkax plays smart, he can always dodge that Q. But that's really close to dying.
So early backs from both Senkax and Paraviva. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Blasting Wand, as well as the Doran's Ring for PoE. Boots a second Doran's Ring for Senkax. So maybe just a little bit up front burst for LeBlanc, that Power of Evil. We'll see what he can do. Wonderwear's got a big wave pushing towards him, and Soaz really putting the hurt in that lane.
The wave's actually pushing away from Wonderwear, and that's why when Soaz wins that trade, it's very, very cumbersome for him right now. Because he's down on poke. He kind of wants to stay to push out that wave, but he's so afraid, so he's going to start finally losing some CS. Sadly, Soaz is not level 6 yet, so he actually will have to walk the lane. Probably even teleport. Chooses not to use it. Quinn with double global though, with a roaming ultimate and a teleport is such a annoying champion to play against. Senkax part 2.
Wow, gonna sidestep the Sonic Wave. The chains missed as well. This is a good sign for Splyce and Senkax when he has been so instrumental in the wins that they've picked up this split already.
Yeah, very comfortable on this Lissandra pickup here. And honestly, we have to admit failure in the prediction part here. Wonderwear surprising us all with that gangplank in the top lane. Staying ahead in CS, obviously Soaz will equalize that right now with the wave crashing to the tower, but being even in this matchup or even ahead at any time is something that technically shouldn't happen.
And technically we've seen Amazing show in 2 different lanes multiple times to no victory yet.
Trashy did walk into bottom lane. That's something we didn't see on our screen. Obviously, you can see it on the map. He walked into bottom lane for gang 2 and revealed himself. So both junglers have had failed attempts. Here's attempt number 4 in the top lane.
This one might work out. Sonic Wave connects. Soaz flashes in. And the final follow through from Amazing. Summoner heal comes up from Kobe. Amazing and Soaz are reading completely different playbooks.
Yeah, this takes us back to week 1 of the LCS where the whole Origen had lacking communication started because they did exactly the same thing. One guy wanted to go into the tower. The other guy was like, no, there's no way this is going to happen. And at least one of them was right. Soaz right now. Trashy. As Cocoon.
I've seen birds in Australia get eaten by spiders, and that's what Trashy wants to do. I saved it at the end. Soaz uses, there's an exhaust that comes out as Mythi rocks up. Gets away with his life, but Mythi needs to get the summoner spell down. Power of Evil will use Cleanse to jump out of the tomb. Senkax forced to flash away.
Yeah, nice little exchange right there. Just the E gets used, Power of Evil predicting the juke with the upwards with the chain. Instant Cleanse there. Power of Evil taking control of this mid lane matchup. There was respect from Splyce. They knew Alistar was missing, so they didn't overchase initially or go for the dive. But Splyce are taking control of this game. Look at the gold lead, 2,000 already.
Last time we saw Splyce do this, they beat Fnatic last week. Origen have to do something if they want to pull us back. And this is very pivotal for Splyce, because if they pick up another win here against Origen, they start looking at playoff bursts. They start looking at breaking into the top 6.
Yeah, Splyce, their first goal right now is obviously that 7th place. You don't want to be stuck in relegations. Give your players a break. Work on improving, whether it's infrastructure or not. Look at Amazing. If he's level 6 right here, fantastic gang, by the way. He's 100% dead because you kick into the wall and you can chase, but Soas is starting to trade. Amazing takes 1 tower shot, few hits, and at this point, like, look, Amazing's like, okay, we're done. Soas is like, nope. Jamais. Never surrender. And Amazing gets, yeah, creep lock, but it doesn't matter. He's dead right there. So that is, I don't even know whose fault that is. Both, I would say.
Maybe we'll get a emotionally charged tweet after the game from Soaz or Amazing explaining the call, because somebody said go and somebody said no.
It's poetic.
It's not the hardest
said
thing
go,
to say.
Then somebody said no.
And then they both said, oh no.
Oh no. Alright, OG. Yeah, looking to even up power reveal right now with blue buff. You kind of want to go in, I'm just going to compare the cooldowns. I feel like Chain will be on a lower cooldown with Soundra E. So Chain has a base cooldown of 12 seconds. The Soundra E has a base cooldown of 18 seconds on rank 2 right now. So that's kind of the play you want to make for PoE. Trade your W E combo for Senkrix's gap closer, and then in that 5-6 second window, see if you can strike. That's how you break open some of these very, very gap closer heavy matchups. One of them will always have a longer cooldown. See if Power Reveal can do that here in the mid lane.
And optimization, Power Reveal maybe slightly ahead of getting that first pickup. Abyssal Scepter getting much closer. We see Sven and Mythy completely shoving Cobby and Nisbet out of lane. Plus 20 CS and a tower. And you can maybe attribute that to the fact that Cobby and Nisbet went to help out Wonderwear up top. Sunkux is in trouble, got the support of Trash here. Self-cast in the tomb. Everything connects and Amazing gets one back.
And this is Splyce not playing with the necessary amount of respect. You can't overextend in the mid lane while playing solo on some other lanes. And Origen with a beautiful read here. They gather in the mid lane, force the overconfidence out of Senkux and find a pick. And suddenly with a tower, the pick off, the game is pretty much even again. Just gonna see if they can stop the snowball on the top lane. Wonderwear is farming up a storm. 30
CS up at 10 minutes. Thanks in part to, actually thanks completely to that failed gank. First blood, getting closer to the Trinity Force as well.
But yeah, looking at what Origen likes to do, they like to get Sven ahead. They're a very Sven-centric team. He's also one of the best carries in the game, so that helps. So by no means is Origen out of it, because the entire season they've been playing like this. So us on a small deficit, he's usually died like twice by now. And Sven hard carrying with a farm advantage, so Origen are actually right now pretty comfortable with the way this game is going, I think.
I need to see them bounce back. Both of these teams traditionally have been down in gold as far as the averages are concerned across their past 12 games. And Origen bounced back just as 10 minutes crested over. The tower, the kill. We're down 2k. Now it's a paltry 500 gold. Trashy will be the next target. So I was looking to go forward. Power Reveal can chase. Got Distortion, but there's support from the duo. Nisbet and Wonderwear, in fact, moving up. But look, while all the attention's down bottom, Sven is pushing up top, so towers are under pressure. Chains connect, Senkux will get rooted. Amazing will not miss the Sonic Wave. Senkux no longer able to use the tomb, and an easy peasy kill with a tower trade in the not too distant future. Yeah, but you have 4 people of Splyce taking down a tower, and Sven's like, it takes you 4 of you to do that? I can do that on my own. Which obviously leaves a member's advantage from Origen somewhere else on the map, and Soas actually created an opening with the Quinn. He's very unpredictable in his map movements because he is so damn quick. He shows up, draws some members from Splyce to reveal themselves. Origen do the math, he's like, Senkux is alone in the mid lane. We have gap closer double chain. Senkux dies. And this is something that Origen did last week when they were using Soaz's Fiora. We'll expand on that in a second. Glacial Fissure comes out just for Amazing. Amazing's got no flash and he gets deaded. Dead man walking. Yeah, and that was all from maybe an over-eager invade. Tower falls up top, so even trades as far as objectives are concerned. And with that kill, Splyce even up the death of Senkux from a few minutes ago. Yeah, this game going back and forth here. Both teams finding openings, even though they don't really get too flustered by their mistakes. That's good to see. Sometimes you see a team get picked off and like, guys back to the drawing board. You're like, keep playing, keep looking for the opening. Decisive ultimate there from Nisbeth. Chip's Amazing, he goes down, suddenly the map kind of slows down again. And Splyce, remember, they're not aiming for this point in the game. They're aiming for like a 25, 28-minute team fight where GP is ramped up the right amount,
and Lissandra is still relevant in terms of damage. Kobe will have 1 or 2 items, and that's the team fight that Splyce is looking for.
Ticking time bomb then, to some extent for Origen. Origen likely will have some tools to split push, as Soaz continues to scale up, but he's now down 24 CS. Ghostplay just completed, so that's a very big power spike. And Origen starting off one of the earlier Dragons today. Across the 3 previous games, we've seen slightly slower focus on that objective.
And yeah, with the split push you just mentioned, the second Dragon may actually prove valuable. Just burn you a little bit away on those towers. Because if you look at Soaz and the rest of Origen, not that much crowd control effects. We talked a little bit about it earlier. And Splyce, they're finding they like each other. Comfort in numbers. 4-man group again. Guess where Sven is? Alone on the other side. It's smart, right? If there's one guy hard carrying, well, never play against him. Play against his teammates. Tower goes down.
All right, tower drops. Sven has just made contact with the bottom inner turret. Tempo's in favor of Splyce, and with the cannon barrage, the tower stays up. So Splyce, 2 steps ahead of Origen.
Splyce, they take the tower, and then they tell Origen, no one man should take all these towers. And Sven has to back off.
That's exactly what Sven does. It's not so as split pushing, which is what I was expecting. The 80 carry Lucian. Why not? 143 CS. So all the CS that Soaz is missing versus Wonderway, Sven is picking up, and that's because he's just been alone in a side lane. But at what point do Origen start running out of options with double teleports, with wave control from GP, from Lissandra?
Oh yeah, we're looking at double teleport too. That's something we haven't really mentioned. Double teleport combined with a global is so hard to break open the game if you're a split pushing team. So Origen will need to use unpredictability into their favor. LeBlanc's on the side lane. Caitlyn should never be here anymore because it's so hard for a level 9 80 carry to deal with a level 11 LeBlanc.
Krug was really, really angry at Kobe there.
No.
It's just not something you see on an LCS broadcast all that often. The blue buff from the previous game was also
I'm contractually forbidden to talk about.
Oh yeah, my bad. I almost set you up for failure. That's my bad. I won't go there again. Trash is going to clear out the very angry...
Once we go post 25 minutes, I'm actually allowed to start talking about Krugs again. Before that, sorry, Trevor.
Yeah. I do remember. I just forgot that for a second. And Soaz left alone up in the top lane. So Power of Evil still trying to play a little bit of a pressure game, and we see the duo from Origen setting up middle. Yep. Some wave clear has been assigned to clear that out.
Splyce is locked in right now. They're pinned down on the wrestling mat because their side lanes are getting pushed in. They have a good group team fight, but if you can't commit to that, it's going to be very hard. They do have double teleport on each side lane, so now it's up to Nispeth and Trashy to work together, move in, get that deep vision, and set up these teleport flank wards. And that's what Origen need to be wary of, and they have fallen prey to some fantastic flanks this season already, so have they learned their lesson?
That is the big question. We'll find out as they decide to push. And Wonderway gonna be under some gank pressure. Barrel will spot out Soaz.
They could have went for it, but they didn't have the vision, so that's the downside here. Origen, obviously we have complete overview and like, why didn't you go for that play? He was alone. Obviously Origen was fighting against complete fog of war. And that's obviously something you need when you're split pushing. That's why Origen has so many yellow trinkets left still. Because they really need the wards everywhere on the map to play the split push game. Splyce, a little more concentrated in their efforts.
To quote Crepo from off-air.
Actually, I'm wrong. Splyce has the yellow trinkets.
Yeah,
I lied.
The yellow.
They need blue trinkets.
Numbers of pink wards across the inventories as well. A lot on the OG side, but they're falling slowly further behind.
Do they need pink wards? I'm actually taking it. I actually think I like the yellow wards, unless Baron becomes on the table. So right now I do like the yellow trinkets because it works so well against split push. Took me a while to get there. Sometimes I need to think out loud. Origen actually with an abundance of sweeper, which means they kind of want to look for picks, but they're finding it hard to find a pick because they can actually see who's coming. So vision denial works for them.
And the threat of TP from Gangplank or Lissandra is ever present. Power of Evil on the side that he may get collapsed on. Instead, Splyce trying to get some more vision in Origen's jungle. It's 2 minutes until Dragon. Remember, the first one's picked up by Origen.
Yep.
So Splyce trying to get some maybe vision around a potential objective.
Oh yeah, Splyce want Origen to go for the Dragon. It's like, hey, do you like this objective? Why don't you maybe all 5 take it? For example, stand in the Dragon Pit maybe.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
I mean, Splyce surely won't find that sort of opportunity.
No.
So as at least try to push that wave out. So if the bottom lane is pushing against the Splyce towers, maybe Origen have some more options. But truthfully, this game is just slowed down. In order to get a tower, you have to commit so many resources or go very deep in enemy territory. And neither team has made incredibly aggressive posturing. But we see a mirror of support items.
Yeah, because this one team wants to split push with double, with pressure. The other team kind of wants to split push with double TP and then collapse too. So vision is just so valuable. Splyce kind of want to split push in the setup and then go into team fight. Origen want to keep split pushing. So going for 4 wards instead of just the traditional 3 definitely helps here in the support. It is a vision game. Very often in this current meta game, it just boils down to mid game being decided by vision. Which team can consistently do it better. It's not like one moment. It is a consistent build-up. Deep ward the enemy jungle, then build on that to get the information. Keep basing with your supports. Supports have never been happier that Homeguards is now free.
Copy eats a whole lot of the culling from Sven. Still down 40 CS. Sven working his way towards his first Zeal item. Zeal plus Eye Edge for Copy. Abyssal Morella Nomicon from Power of Evil, and Nisbet will just take a whole lot of bull.
Ooh, Sven with the poke here though. Soaz coming in, obviously Turbojet Soaz.
Is this the tower? There's a lot of damage coming up from both Soaz and Sven, but the threat of engage, and you can also see side lanes being controlled by Wonderwear and Senkux.
Yeah, and Origen's obviously wary of their side lanes for teleports, but
yeah.
Wonderwear is doubting, like, do I really ulti for 3 creeps? But 3 creeps is all it takes to just whittle down that turret. Origen looking for the collapse here. Wonderwear getting caught.
Oh, the barrel goes down as well. Soaz, maybe with the counterplay, the support from Mithy's not coming in. Soaz will get the kill. That got very, very risky.
Yeah, Origen, Soaz here, puts his opponent in his underwear. One more W there. Takes him down.
And Power of Evil is able to defend the mid-outer turret. But that's just a relief of pressure. Origen are still down in gold. They should be able to close that a little bit, as not a lot of support to defend this outer turret here.
Soaz picked up a fire cannon there, immediately sold it. It's like, nah, I'm actually going Phantom Dancer, because again, this plays into their style. Origen will never want to team fight, so you want to build your itemization around the 1v1 exchanges in the side lanes, because that's what Soaz wants to do. Use his mobility to find a pick alone, hopefully supported by the vision then, to make sure he wins that, and that's why he goes for the best dueling item you can build out of that Zeal is the Phantom Dancer.
So itemization secured. Dragon number 2 picked up. Damage over time onto those tower autos. Secured. So whether Sven or Soaz is left alone in lane, it can help knock that over ever so slightly quicker. But they still need to break through this ring of vision. It feels like every time I look at the minimap, Splyce have some vision inside Origen's jungle. At the moment, it's just being cleared out by Mithy. But the problem is, maybe it's a strong word, but I don't feel like Splyce is making use of that vision.
It's hard though, they're continuously being pushed in. They're looking for an opening. Origen isn't pushing to the point where Splyce can actually collapse either though. Like, when do Splyce really want to pincer? It's when Origen kind of cross the midway point in the mid lane, because you don't want to TP to a side lane. You want to TP on both sides of the mid lane, and Origen will eventually get that mid lane tower, and that's when the TP flanks start being available. Perhaps right here. There is a ward on the right side of mid. Mithy peeling off, hopefully to keep Wonderwear down. It's a delicate balance where you need to be respectful of TP, but still put pressure, trying to keep them down.
Soaz has that TP available. Culling comes up. Power of Evil's trying to force Cobby away. They get good damage down, but may not be enough.
Side lane push though. The Sandra pushed out the bottom wave, so that's pressure. There's no 1-3-1 here from Origen. Soaz has the base, so right now they're thrown to a flank. That's why they're backing off in the mid lane.
And it feels like there's decent deep wards from Origen in Splyce's jungle this time around. Give them more information to work with. Soaz is dealing with that push, and he has teleport available, Crepper. Nisbet and Trashy, I don't know if they can defend this tower. The Unbreakable Shield will be enough to thwart it for now. And Origen maybe playing with a relevant amount of respect. They're not overstaying their bounds.
Every time Wonderwear steps in Fog of War, every time Senkuk disappears the map, you immediately see the hesitation on the side of Origen. Necessary, because one misstep and suddenly Splyce takes complete control of this game, because Origen's style requires some setup. Like, those lanes aren't magically pushed. It's a multi-step process where you push them, then Mithy walks in for the deep vision, then you push mid again, then you find an opening. They've been chipping at this tower, now they're chipping at this map.
Let's have a look. Unbreakable. Great cocoon from Trashy. That'll stop Soaz in his tracks. The culling goes through the Spiderlings and Cobby's HP. Minions are dying shortly, and Senkux looked like he was burst out as well. Finally, Origen get the tower.
All right, Senkux will base, get home guards. We see Wunluwer hiding in the brush too. We may finally see the play that Splyce is looking for. If not, Origen will equalize the gold lead. There's just no wards. There's all blue wards. There's one trinket ward here, though, amazing. That's the TP ward, but Origen completely back off. They respect the possibility of a TP flank, and they're happy with what they got.
And if Splyce are waiting for an overstep from Origen before they pull the trigger, and Origen don't ever overstep, that is a problem. Splyce need to maybe force an error, force a mistake.
Yeah, they will be able to later on force that by just simply walking to Baron and starting it. That is kind of what teams do. It's a little early right now because the tanks aren't tanky enough to soak up enough damage and still be able to fight. But like 30 minutes into the game, 35 minutes into the game, maybe that's the play you're looking for. Because right now, Origen is still pretty far away from Splyce's base. As they funnel in more, they kind of put their hand deeper in the cookie jar to get, you know, the good double chocolate chip that's all the way at the bottom. Obviously, that's when they get
I don't know what that cookie tastes like anymore, Crepo. I've been so well behaved. Sven takes an ace in the hole, and the rest of Origen gonna try apply pressure elsewhere. Power of Evil's up top, Soaz is down bottom, but there's enough.
Ooh, this is big. The wave disappears in mid lane, so that's pressure gone. Soaz is done alone in the bottom lane. There's no flank opportunity on Power of Evil because he's playing with the necessary amount of vision and respect. And Origen open up another tower.
So it's taken 10+ minutes, but the playstyle is now beginning to yield benefits. Origen have been aggressively pushing forward, just ever so slightly, inch by inch by inch. And they got outer middle turret, inner bottom turret, a kill, and now they're somewhat in control of the game.
Yeah, and they're just playing it split push to a T. There's very little you can say that Origen is doing wrong here. The only thing you can criticize with this playstyle is perhaps speed of execution. But even that, I think Origen is getting really good results right here within the time frame.
Now there is a risk, right? Essence Reaver, Triforce, another
or some teleports.
For Wonderwear. Forced error. Let's see if it'll be on Origen or Splyce. Cannon Barrage comes down in the retreat. Senkux flashes forward. Amazing is the target. A very good multi-man knockup from Mythic. They've traded 1-for-1. Mid for jungle. Soaz is playing around on the flanks, and Power of Evil's looking for a target. Defensive flash away from Soaz, and Power of Evil forces Cobby away, but doesn't get the kill. Everybody's knocked into River for a brief swim, but it's Wonderwear that's with the fishes, and it's a 1-for-2.
Yeah, in an attempt to force an error here, Splyce make a completely unforced error. What a horrible engage. We have to call it what it is. Cannon Barrage completely misses in that fight, and Senkux could not find the target he should be looking for. He went to do amazing, just played pinball with them. 4-man kick, I believe, and then Sven completely untouched, so target prioritization was absolutely horrendous here from Splyce. And Origen, they danced around beautifully in that fight. They really understood how to play it, and that's why they get 2 kills for 1. And more importantly, both teleports are on cooldown right now.
Yeah, very, very big benefit. Origen are going to try make it a hat trick. 2 kills, and the third one, potentially the Baron. It's going down very quick. There's a lot of damage. Splyce are making their way in. Cannon Barrage not available, nor is the teleports. And Origen maybe wisely backing away, not worth the risk.
Yeah, definitely a little bit too soon here. The war for the Scuttle Crab finishes as Origen pick it up, so that means there's no counter Baron on the table here for Splyce. Splyce have to wonder though. Good TP, double flank, look at Wonderwear. This ulti, absolutely wrong. Senkux, why don't you flash onto Sven? You actually flash on Alistar and Lee Sin in the jungle. Look at Sven. The only damage he eats here is a barrel from Wonderwear. He could have eaten that damage and gotten a CC there, because he actually does have QSS, but just the sheer amount of damage from Senkux is enough. If a QSS is gonna stop you from actually damaging the enemy opponent, then Sven gets the most money out of the item he could potentially ever do, because you don't want to kill the jungler and the support if you're Lissandra. So, I mean, props to OG, they played it fight perfectly within its context, but we have to criticize Splyce for their targeting.
Yeah, and Sven, of course, plus 70 CS, 290 at 27 minutes. He's way ahead of Cobby at this stage in the game.
Wonderwear's higher though, as always.
Yeah.
The guy's like the king of the side lane farm. When we're running the stats, our stats guy has these really nice colors. Like green is a really nice outlier, so we don't actually need to look at the numbers. And Wonderwear, yeah, pulled ahead there, but he can't translate it into damage. Nope. And Soaz can. Even when behind, Soaz was dealing really good damage for being low on gold. And in that fight, Senkux Damage delta, that can't be right. 0 damage can't be right. He must have done something.
I thought he got an ultimate on Amazing. We'll have to double check that with our stats.
Maybe it's a metaphor. Maybe it's 0 is not 0. Right? You're at the European LCS. Numbers don't actually mean anything.
0 is not 0. Ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by the European LCS.
It's like 0 is not a size, 0 is not a damage.
0 does not mean nothing.
Apparently.
So Origen, they are the ones that now have a 2,000 gold lead. And that slow but steady pressure on the side lane, forcing Splyce to look for a forced team fight, that truthfully backfired. Now Sven comes off worse for wear after Kabi sends an ace in the hole. And we're back to this mid lane tower pressure.
OG running out of towers to take though, so they're looking at the inhibs right now, which is really hard because you open yourself for a collapse. PoE, some good poke here. I think you could have stayed even longer there. I think you could have connect that chain on this path, but Origen's playing with the necessary amount of respect because Wonderware's hiding in Fog of War. They're just so respectful of their opponent while slowly pushing the advantage because Soaz will win that 1v1 eventually.
So TP, about a third of the cooldown still remaining for Soaz. Senkux will have his very, very shortly. And Cannon Barrage is up as well. So Splyce maybe have another double TP gank in the tank.
Interesting though. Soaz, we talked about how he was itemizing purely for the 1v1. It seems that he wants to flank here. Hang on.
Wow, he's going all the way in. They've caught Kabi. Kabi is just obliterated. Amazing with a confident play. Now they turn their attention to Baron. Senkux follows the claw through, finds nobody to root, and puts a barrel in the behind of Mythy.
Yeah, and the Cannon Barrage being down is so crucial because it cuts out usually the escape path for Origen, allowing Senkux to close the gap. He's touching back on Origen. Soaz though, he went for the Hexdrinker, even though he's most likely going to be 1v1 in Wonderware, so it does indicate that Origen starting to feel comfortable to go for fights here.
Yes, they are. Power of Evil dashes forward to the double distortion. Glacial Fissure to try splits it up, but the damage is already done. Mythy is waiting in the wings to catch Senkux, and it's Soaz that goes on a killing spree. Origen turn their attention to Baron.
Some early mistakes from Origen, but right now in the mid game, ever since 15 minutes, they have been completely dismantling Splyce overall. Splyce had one chance. One shot, I'm not going to say the other word. That's a 3 shots. Gangplank goes down.
That counts as a one shot, come on.
I mean, yeah, okay, I'll give it one.
Well look, Power of Evil on LeBlanc. This is the first time that he's played this champion this split. We've been wondering if he was going to pull it out, and he's making it count. I actually said it in Picks and Bans last week. Maybe not as convincingly as I could have. But it is a good performance.
I mean, Origen just completely controlling this game. It is, however, something we expected. The rift between top 6 and bottom 4 was big. Origen were struggling though, and they gave us plenty of reasons to doubt. But they kind of fall back into this familiar style that we saw actually from some of these members when they were on Fnatic earlier in the season. I say some, only Soaz when he was in like Fnatic Season 3, he was like the king of split push. He really understood that in his gameplay, and he's bringing it back to the table right here.
Let's see how their Baron power play works out.
They keep moving it.
Yeah.
It's on the right of the screen right now. I was like,
it's new. You have to play with the new toy, Crapo. But yeah, 2 minutes 20 left on Baron. Obviously secure by red side. Nobody running Runic Affinity. That's why it's plus 0-0. And, you know, league-wide averages for these power plays is around 3,500 gold. And we need to see what Origen can do with the next 2 minutes. Siege on both bottom lane and top with teleport available.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about how
TP.
Hang on.
Double TP, in fact. Origen are going to get caught up. Power of Evil cleanses and dashes over the wall. They've shut him down. Baron power play is going to be counteracted. A strong defense from Splyce on the fight, but Soaz is looking at the inhibitor turret. He's cracked one already. Turned his attention to the inhibitor. If Origen can keep Splyce busy, how much base damage can be done? Soaz is forced to back away, and the inhibitor stands.
Yeah, really good split push here. Again, Origen taking one member down in exchange for an exposed inhibitor. That's worth it in the end. Another tower falls here. Amazing going for the kick. This doesn't, he has to be dead.
Yeah, the Unbreakable Shield will not keep him alive for too long. I, in fact, retract that. The exhaust kept him up longer, but they lose the tower in the trade.
This is where we start questioning. Is it like buying time for Soaz? Yes, it's good, but they could have done that without going for that fight. Soaz trades his life for his support. Miscalculates a little bit. I mean, I thought it looked pretty. I thought he knew what he was doing. Nisbeth survives, costs that exhaust though, which is big in these fights. But to touch on the timing of these fights, we talked about 25 minutes, 28 minutes is the team fights for Splyce. The problem right now is that 33 minutes in the game, nearly every carry is finishing QSS or upgrading it already, which makes it so hard for Senkux to have an impact. You want to Ice Tomb for Power Weevil? Cleanse. You want to go for Mithy? Obviously Alistar. You want to go for Sven? QSS. Soaz has one too. So the problem is, Lisandro is forced to kind of ulti herself, and that means Origen can disengage and kite.
They're going to have to do that again and again, but they've got 2 exposed inhibitors to make their life easier. Less than 30 seconds on this Baron power play. Soaz does a flyby to say hello to Splyce. This might be the first dragon for Splyce. They can secure this one. That'll be a very valuable dragon at this stage. And for Origen, just slightly behind their average Baron power play. They do usually sit at about 3,600.
Top is starting to going for a BT third is just not a really damage efficient build. So Origen's pressure and pickoffs have made it so that Splyce is itemizing a little bit more defensively. It's all up to Windowware though. If they can stall, if they can keep their base alive, Gangplank can 1v5 this later on. You cannot understate or underestimate the sheer amount of damage Windowware can produce, and he is sitting on a ton of farm.
Well, if Origen showed me something last week, is Soaz sitting on that ward? Soaz doesn't want to be with the team. He's quite happy to look for the base. You might wonder where he's gone. Power of Evil sent him back to base.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yep, right, inhibitor secured. Sven takes it down. Soaz, with the help of a minion wave, will shut down another inhibitor. Origen are now just running away. Look at Wonderware on your screen. Really did not expect Power of Evil out the flank.
Yeah, that's where you just blame your team. Call miss, please. Now, Origen just really good at rotating between these lanes, looking for a mistake. They're forcing mistakes without really overexposing themselves to one. One can argue that Splyce needs to set up for the TP flanks better though. We'll talk about it later. 3-man combo.
3-man knock up into a double pinball strike. The Glacial Fissure comes out. There's a lot of AoE damage. Kobe is down and Origen forced to think twice about re-engaging. Still dancing around the turret as Senkux and Trashy are staying alive. Between Repel and the Tomb, they've dodged a lot of damage. Amazing is rooted in place, and finally Senkux goes down. It's a triple kill for Soaz. He's not done yet. Looking for the Quadra. It's stolen by Scumbag Mithy, and they turn their attention to the inhibitor turret. Inhibitor will fall shortly after if they stick around. Instead, the potential 1v3.
You say stolen, I say teamwork. Mithy goes in for another one. Soaz looking to rotate to the bottom lane. If Mithy can distract enough, Soaz can put some pressure here. You have much lifesteal? No, not really, so it's gonna take a while. But yeah, Windowware gets caught up there trying to defend.
Donating some extra CS to help Soaz catch up. 6-0-6. Playing the side lanes and the flanking perfectly. Here's Soaz going in.
One more combo here. Like the 3-man combo, flash kick, because if he doesn't do that, he's too slow on the Kobe. Kobe barely escapes the piercing light though. That exposes them to a massive AoE from Senkux. Look at this flash right now here. Boop, flashes out again. Dodges a W for Power Evil. Amazing's gonna dash into a trap. Does to get the mind game by the Q backwards. Actually goes for Senkux, but yeah, this fight, it just shows you the danger though of overcommitting into this Lissandra. If you all commit, the AoE damage from the ulti that spreads is massive, but Origen had just such a great start to that fight, and obviously 4v5.
Worked in favor of Origen, so only one inhibitor left standing. But Origen, I think controlled is the best word for them this game. You know, some individual misplays, maybe some communication errors very, very early on.
Yeah, definitely.
But as soon as that happened, they then just like, peace down, we're right. No more risks, no more mistakes, and they've been playing very safe and controlled and patient.
Yeah, they're like, let's not fight the enemies, let's just fight the structures.
Taking a page out of H2K's book.
Yeah, and it worked. And just a stylistic mismatch. When team fight, TP flank, meet split push. It's just a very interesting gameplay because both teams know each other's counters. Splyce knows that they have to teleport flank. Origen is aware that that's their weakness, and it's all about like Origen here avoiding the kryptonite.
Yeah, and of course the 2 times that Splyce have done, they lost the first fight, and the second fight. The second fight, so has destroyed the base. You know, yeah. he flew in from the blind side of Metropolis and took down the structures. So Soaz again playing, looking on the side lanes. He
Look
just
how quick it
recalled.
is. He doesn't need to. This is just like. Really?
I don't really know what the...
What bird goes broom? Really, I don't know what birds you guys have in South Africa, but over here, Central Europe.
You know the worst part is I had that realization myself, and I kind of like half committed, but decided to bail away. I know you don't play fantasy, Crapo, but this is the first week that Soaz has got me points. I picked him up early, and he's just disappointed me in fantasy for 6 weeks in a row. There's a few guys in the crowd nodding their heads. They felt the pain. They felt the pain.
This is why I don't play fantasy. I can't handle the disappointment.
It kills me. Last week, the Fishio beat me, and he just bragged for a week. Right, back on target. Amazing. Mythy spin. They're in the Baron pit. Soaz is doing red try and run amok inside Splyce's jungle. Last week, Soaz won a game by split pushing. Now he's coming for the flank. A defensive Fisher from this bit is just going to slow people down. Soaz, remember, has the Mercurial Scimitar, and Senkax decides not to pull the trigger.
Can I just say that I love the picture-in-picture, the turbo cam we have, following Soaz around, going for the flank. He actually doesn't commit there, and that's something that we saw in like week 3 or 4, where Soaz would flank, commit, realize he's alone, and die. Definitely improved his ways here and just takes the scenic route around Summoner's Rift back to the bottom lane. Look at Wunderwear, he's just on Wither duty, hoping to use his global to slow down the fight and then teleport in. Origen, they're looking at inhib response rate, so you can see when the inhibitor responds on the circle that's around the inhib. Once that's full circle, it will respawn, so we're over halfway right now, so Origen will need to find an opening, and that opening might be Baron.
Definitely want to force their hand. Teleports up, no cannon barrage from Wonderwear. It's about a third of the cooldown still to go. Splyce are grouping up. Soaz is putting pressure on Wonderwear in the base, while Sven and Mythy are on the Baron. Defensive flash from Wonderwear. Soaz has won that. The peel away from Origen. They've got Nisbet already. There was no Fisher to be used. The culling takes some damage, and Amazing lands flat on a trap. Copy's going to continue to try piece away. Senkax follows the Claw of Doom, but isn't sentencing anyone to it. Soaz has already got one inhibitor.
Yeah, amazing. Fantastically Legends player. Needs to work on that mind sweeping a little bit more. But Origen collapsed immediately. Power Reaver looking in the flanks, and they force Splyce to face check, and then they pick them off. And Splyce trying to outplay in these very, very cumbersome situations. And Soaz just adding so much pressure. Every time it disappears, you got to look at your Nexus.
Teleport is available, as is Cannon Barrage for Wonderwear. Trashy's at half hit points. Sven with a very respectful flash. Gets out of range of that glacial path, and Cobby's going to continue backing away. Look at Soaz coming from the jungle. There is some damage to be had. Soaz could look to engage, and I think that he will. He folds forward, and Cobby's down. Soaz goes godlike for them juicy fantasy points. A double kill as he trunks down Trashy. A flash away from Senkax over the wall, and Soaz instantly turns his attention, but those barrels hurt.
Yeah, they definitely hurt, but the Baguette 8-0 and 6 right now. I love that nickname, by the way. Sounds like a failed comic superhero. But he's straight up carrying his game with the split push pressure. He's just making it impossible for Splyce to do anything, and they're trying.
Teleport, zoom, broom, zoom. Oh, we didn't see the broom. I bought a Baguette pen because of Soaz at Worlds, and his Fiora play inspired some Baguette Fiora skins. Origen are going to crack open yet another inhibitor. They've decided they don't need anything more to finish this game because they've killed Senkax. There's a multi-man knockup once again. A double kill as Nisbet follows shortly. They chase Wonderwear onto the fountain, take him out through the healing, turn their attention to the Nexus, and Origen take down Splyce. Hard fought, patient victory. You can see the control on their faces. It's not jubilance, but there was maybe less mistakes this game than we've seen in previous.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, obviously Splyce is in the mid game, isn't the most proactive team. Isn't the best at playing these compositions that require heavy flanking. We saw it, I think they played an anti-Kog'Maw comp last week too, on the first day, not the game against Fnatic, the other game they played. And they failed to kind of flank and execute. And this is the same thing, they're playing double teleport, where they need to flank and force a fight, and they're missing the setup part. And obviously, praise to Origen. They played that beautifully, but going back to the early game, just to be another negative Nancy, that tower dive, if you do that against a good team, if you do that in playoffs, you straight up can lose the game off that.
Yeah.
Because the counter pick win did not get a CS advantage on the Gangplank. You then dive and lose all your pressure when your jungle support synergy, your jungle top lane synergy kind of fails there. That was huge window of opportunity for Splyce to take control of the game with the double teleport, but they just weren't quite there yet.
No, definitely not. And you see Yamato Cannon on stage chatting away to the players. For Splyce, I think things are looking a little more positive. They are pulling out some performances in recent weeks that are starting to challenge the struggling Origen, the struggling Fnatic. That was the 8th unique champion we've seen Wonderware play. Senkax has played 9 unique champions. Nisbet has played 8, and I just want to go back to that because we're starting to see them play repeat performances, the Lissandra, the Braum, and those are the performances that are starting to stand out. Senkax, despite hitting amazing early, later on he didn't waste his ultimate. So anyways, we're going to break down the game just a little bit further on the analyst desk to talk about Origen's win.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Before we dive into the analysis, some good news for the people here on the desk. Now with this, H2K, Vitality, and G2 have locked their place in playoffs, so congratulations, gentlemen.
Easy.
Easy.
There you go.
GG, well played.
What a good news.
Yeah, you would get banned if you say that in game. This does also mean that there are only 3 spots left in those playoffs. When you look at the performance of OG today, you would say, okay, they deserve that spot. How close do you think they are to it?
I mean, I assume it's already pretty locked in. I mean, that like it sounds like I'm being cocky for OG, but I feel like, yeah, they're going to be in playoffs and we're preparing for that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like, Origen Splyce was actually a really important game in terms of who gets, like, for sure the 6th place. So now that there's a little bit more of control for Origen in case, like, they lose some games, right? But I think now, like, it's a little bit settled who goes to playoff.
Splyce could also still make that, honestly. Let's reflect on both teams' performance here, because you wanted to take a look at the mid-game team fight in the mid lane, which showed kind of OG in his best form, and unfortunately Splyce in not that good of a form.
Yeah, I mean, so this is the fight that Splyce kind of need. Like, they get the TP flank and LeBlanc's not there. However, I think they just have a big miscommunication. Like, they don't know who to go for. They kind of go for Amazing there, and they leave, like, Sven, who's always been the big carry of OG. So I think the idea was there, but the execution was really bad. And after that, like, now OG has the map open, and the team fight's already gone.
Yeah, the idea was really good, right? The Origen set up a 1-3-1, so the only moment where you can take a 1-3-1 is just to engage in mid when the side lanes are not set up. So, like, the TP was really good, and then after, when you have, like, Lee Sin, Alistar, and Lucian, I think it's pretty obvious who you should focus. And, like, even, I don't know if he had flash on the, I can't see it, but, like, if he has flash, but you should instantly go on Lucian. He doesn't have cleans, doesn't have anything, no QSS and Alistar, I mean, no Michaels. So, it made sense for me, but the team fight was pretty poor, and sometimes, well, it's what happened.
Sven had QSS, and he had flash, but it's still, they're running a 1-3-1, like you said. So they have 3 damage dealers. If Sven flashes out, QSS is cool. They have the only damage dealer left is Quinn, who's like short range 80 carry. So I still think, although, yeah, he had the QSS flash, which might kind of deter you from focusing him, it was still half of the damage in that team fight. LeBlanc didn't come until the end.
But even if he has QSS, as you said, you didn't see it, but you get the damage output, right?
Yeah.
Like, it removes the CC, but you get, like, the ultimate, probably the W and the Q of Lissandra, so it makes you, like, maybe 20% HP, because Lissandra has decent damage with Abyssal, so he would have been out of the fight in similar ways. So then after you can focus on other people, but not on Lee Sin.
Yeah, just not Lee Sin, man.
Not Lee Sin.
That's the idea, not on Lee Sin, right?
Of course, Yamato is coaching this team. Is this one of those things that you have to keep hammering on, a team fight like this and those individual mistakes? Because in the end, you have to get rid of those before you can step further. And Yamato, we know, has big ideas about how the game should be played and has come out for that. How should you handle that with a young team, probably?
I mean, looking at that fight, I think the first talk I would have is, discussing the QSS versus Lissandra. Like, it does seem scary as a Lissandra player to go against QSS, but it's really not a big deal. Like, the goal in that team fight was, abuse the numbers advantage, forcing Sven out even if you can't kill him, reinforces the numbers you have. So I would kind of like pressure, like, the QSS doesn't make or break Lissandra. Like, we can play around it. And choosing targets, I don't know if it was called to go on Lee Sin or if it was just they didn't want to go on Sven, but they kind of have to go through why that team fight needed to happen and who needed to die during it, kind of thing.
And you have also what we didn't talk about is this Gangplank ultimate. So it's like a really big factor, right? Like, it does like mostly magic damage. So like, yeah, you need it a little bit in the comps. So like, when you put this ultimate to zone people, reminds me a little bit of a Bard ultimate or like even an Anivia wall, right? It's like you don't want to go into the GP ult, so you have to connect a little bit before, but like GP ult is not like that. It's just you put it in the middle of the fight.
I think it had to be a misclick. Like, I don't think anyone can argue that that's the correct way to use GP ult.
I mean, yeah, that's the kind
I said it was, but I'm of course the silver scrub. I thought, hey, he's zoning them off so they come in and they can team fight into
just
him.
silver linings, but yeah, GP ult is like massive slow, and it like actually will just solo you as like an AD carry if you just sit in it. So you actually have to move.
So you actually have to like for Lucian, you just like go back or even flash out if you get like a little bit too scared, and then after all disconnect. So if you don't have GP ultimate, GP is the scaling champion, so his ultimate is a big factor in the mid game.
Yeah.
Then the barrel damage cannot like be the biggest factor in the team fight. So then after you probably have a lost team fight, and then Queen is really good at just rotating really fast when you miss something. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that team fight's really important because later in the game, their only engage was really Lissandra. Like Braum is going to be kind of secondary. Elise is kind of secondary. She has to hit a skill shot. So pretty much their engage was like, yeah, GP ult into Lissandra. And as people get QSSs, it gets harder. Yeah, it's not end of the world, but if everyone gets it now, like everyone has free MR, Lissandra's burst goes down. She's not the highest scaling. She just has good CC. So the team fights get harder and harder as the game goes on for Splyce. So I think I'll go back saying like the idea was right. They needed to make that call. They just needed to play it correctly there, and then the next team fights would be easier and easier.
Yeah.
So that's the point. You should talk as if you're Yamato.
Enrico,
right?
so
Yeah,
I hope he watches the VOD, and then he can just show what. No, I'm sure he knows what to do in this situation.
Soaz Wunderwear matchup.
Yeah.
Soaz show up with the counter pick into GP. So GP again a loss, right? So GP is not overpowered guys anymore. So leave it to us.
Yeah, you some mind games here.
Quid is really good into the matchup, and once you get snowballed, Soaz played really well.
Yep.
He rushed Phantom Dancer, which is interesting, right? We talked a bit about this, and then makes you like just really hard to catch, and really like pressure-wise is really good.
Yeah, I think the trade-off normally is rapid fire cannon is normally like second item, or
a bit nerfed,
or Ma or something. Yeah, so I think after the nerf, it becomes like, do you want the extra poke in a team fight where you get the extra long range, or do you want the straight 1v1 where you get the damage reduction? So I think that's actually a pretty decent item build change on Quinn now, is getting Phantom Dancer over Fire Cannon, because yeah, you want to make her 1v1s extra good. You don't really want to make her team fights better. Yeah, and it showed in the end. Soaz took over this game, and Origen takes home a win. We still got one game left on the slate today between the Unicorns of Love and Roccat. Don't touch that browser. There's more European LCS coming your way right after this.
I feel my chair vibrate for literally 10 seconds. That was the longest fart ever.
You know, camera's on you, my friend.
God.
Why?
Why? Just saying. Can we replace him? Noxix already joined the team.
It's okay, we can take...
Grapple?
No, we can take Babetta.
Oh, the barrel goes down as well. Soaz, maybe with the counterplay, the support from Mythi's not coming in. Soaz will get the kill. Power of Evil's looking for a target. Defensive flash away from Soaz, and Power of Evil forces Kobe away, but doesn't get the kill.
No, I'm walking. I'm coming through wolves. I'm coming through wolves with flash combo. I'm coming through wolves. I get this guy. The 3-man combo.
3-man knock up into a double pinball strike. The Glacial Fissure comes out. There's a lot of AoE damage. And Origen take down Splyce.